Okay, we are streaming. How are we doing on the forum? So I've got a few to admit here.
Valley. Dan Johnson.
You ready to get started, Roger?
We're still looking for a quorum here. We don't have quite enough.
Are we going to see anybody from West Valley or Layton today? I don't see anybody from there.
We've got Zach with Layton. So we are
Okay.
Dan Johnson.
I'm here.
Dan Johnson's out of town.
it's tough when we're missing the big cities.
I don't see anybody from Orem either.
We're at 2:15, we need 2:20.
Could be a really short meeting.
Run by from Orem.
Is he an alternate?
Yes, he's actually our board member.
Okay. It's Lamson. That's
Mhm. And I think Brandon is an alternate. For the other one.
Response out of him. Who else do we have? Anyone else that could help with the vote?
Just Dan Johnson and.
Orem and West Valley are two big cities, so that's
Yeah,
that's
we're
the
missing
silly.
both of them. And I don't know if they have any alternates.
I get a response from I don't want to reschedule. I appreciate everybody being here, everybody else. So try to get this to work.
So just in case, we just need to fill some time, we can still do training for those that are here, because they can still get their certificates from the state, which takes up at least 7 minutes, waiting for other people to come for votes, and stuff like that, just in case.
Okay, well, let's keep trying to get people.
Yeah.
I think
He just wanted to be on, so he could act as the alternate.
Dan Johnson, but he's out of town. I guess.
No, wait.
Oh, he could, yeah, he could. Oh, Dan's on a plane, he might be able to join in on the plane. Yes.
Gonna get in trouble.
I'll get the thumbs up for his vote. Exactly.
How many do you need for a quorum?
2:20 and we have 2:15.
So there's a weighted number for each city based on the size that was created when it was UIA was created in Utopia. So we have different points for each city, and the problem is Orem and West Valley are the two biggest, and we know we're missing Wayne or West Valley City. So we're trying to get someone else in. Did you get the meeting invites? Yeah.
Yeah, because he's the alternate, and I haven't removed him just yet. Yeah, teach
We can get in. Did Brandon confirm the,
Wait, Roger, Wayne will hop on. He's got to pull over and check that he has the meeting link, and then he can hop on.
all right, we'll have a meeting then.
I didn't get any response from Brent.
Response.
Like, he didn't say it.
That'd be easier if we just had one vote per city, but that's not the way it was organized, or at least for hitting a quorum requirement. Wait, here we go. Here's Wayne's joining.
Oh, we're good.
We're almost there, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Oh, there's Alex. That doesn't help because we already have.
No, because we have that, and he's technically the member, but he has an other.
Hey guys,
Hey, Wayne.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right, very good.
All right, Roger,
So-
you ready?
Yeah, we're good. I want to just kind of update the group real quick though, as you start though. This is UIA and we've had Alex historically chairing this. Layton's made a change in its board representatives, and so that leaves the chair position open. So we have the first vice chair, which is Derek, to chair the meeting. So anyways, that would explain, you'd be like, well, if Alex is on, why isn't he chairman? So I just want to give you an update that they've made their changes. The board elections will be at the next meeting where we kind of reshuffle or whatever, the chair, vice chair, and second vice chairs. We do that for each board, but that'll be in our February meeting. So that's explanation of why we have Derek chairing the meeting. We appreciate him and his willingness to do that.
Okay, with
We're
that, thank everybody for being here. I think we've got everybody represented other than Orem, it looks like, so.
Brent's joining right now, actually, coming in.
Oh, there's Brandon right there. Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? If they had, I'd take a motion on that.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of August 14th and September 18th.
Thank you, Brenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Jason Sant.
Thanks, Jason. Is there any further discussion on that? All in favor of approval of the minutes for August 14th and September 18th, say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? All right, looks like we're gonna move to a public hearing for a budget adjustment. I'll turn the time over to Jason to introduce that, and then we'll get started, make a motion to open after Jason introduces the budget adjustment. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Derek. This budget adjustment that's being proposed, this is primarily a result of us having issued bonds. If you'll remember, when we approved the budget for fiscal year 2024, we said that our plan was to issue bonds and amend the budget at the time we issued the bonds for the bond issuance, and that's what we're doing right now. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. And while I was doing the budget adjustment, I decided it would be good to go through and look at where we stand financially. So here's the financial update looking at actual results through October 31st. Something I wanted to bring up with revenues is usually when I show a projected revenue number, all I'm doing is taking our revenue through the end of the current month that we're looking at, and then taking that pro rata for the rest of the year. We know that that is usually much lower than, so my projection will usually be much lower than what we actually anticipate ending the year. This time I've done something a little different to try to get a more accurate projection for where we're going to end the year. And what I did is I took what our month ending October, just for the month of October results were for recurring revenue, and I projected that out as if we got that amount of revenue for the rest of the year. And then conservatively, we've had some very good sales months the last few months at Utopia, which we'll talk about in the subscriber update. Roger will talk about that. But because we had such good months, I very conservatively said, well, if we do a quarter of what we've done every month for the rest of the year, what would our revenue look like? And that's what I put for the projected revenue numbers here, at least for the residential transport, business transport, and fiber lease. What I'm seeing is that residential transport will be about on budget with that conservative projection. I hope to beat all these numbers. Business revenue is going to be much higher, and fiber lease revenue will be much lower. The fiber lease revenue, if we look at how we budgeted last year compared to where we actually ended the year, was very similar, and the business revenue was similar. Net result is I'm projecting much higher revenues than we have budgeted. So by 600,000-700,000, somewhere in there. I have incorporated that into the budget revision, which I'll show you here in a minute. One other thing I did want to talk about before we got to the budget revision was the original budget. When we set the original budget, I wanted to bring attention to one number. When we didn't have bond funding, we actually showed a contribution from fund balance of about $5.3 million to come out of our cash account to fund operations. This was with anticipation that we'd get a bond and probably wouldn't have to use this amount. The reason I'm bringing it up is because this amount does show up in the bond revision. It shows up in the budget revision that's being proposed here. And finally, let me call up the budget revision and a list of all the items that are in the budget revision. And I'll hit the major ones here. The projected increased cash inflows, most of it is from the first two lines are just showing, or first two lines are just showing what's coming in from the bonds. It was a $30 million bond, but we're anticipating that will last for 2 years, with 20 million being spent this year and about 10 million being spent next year. That's about what the plans are for the bonds. I've also included increase for residential transport fees, as I showed on the other slide that we looked at for the financial results, and business transport fees. Projected outflows of where we project to use this money. We have bond issuance cost and interest expense coming out of CAP-I. Those are both coming out of the bonds as planned. I'm showing less fiber lease revenue, as I showed on the financial projection also. And then the main ones that we see here, about $4 million on residential installations. If we look at these lines here, we're looking at about $6 million in additional business installations. That's where the money's going to go. And the other two big numbers shown on here are the decreased budgeted use of fund balance. So that's just keeping cash in our bank account, as I mentioned, based off what we did in the original budget, the 5.1 million. And there's about 4.5 million that was spent right about year end, right, like in June, that was for inventory purchases. We will reimburse ourselves for some of those inventory purchases out of these bonds, but that those purchases will be used in the build out of we're doing in the businesses and in the residential build outs. I guess that's all I have to present. And Derek, I'll turn that back over to you.
Thank you, Jason. Do we have any questions for Jason or Roger on the budget adjustment? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So move. This is Brian.
Thank you, Brant. A second.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Zach. This is a roll call vote. Christina, if you'll run through those. Krista, sorry.
Zach Lawson,
Yes.
Nate Rockwood,
Yes.
Brenda Moore,
Yes.
Wayne Pyle,
Yes.
Bren Bybee, I'll come back. Brant Hansen,
Yes.
Mayor Lumber,
Yes.
and Jason Sant,
Yes.
Derek Euler,
Yes.
and then Bren, are you able to unmute? If not, we're still okay to pass it without the vote.
Okay. You've got enough votes.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, you have enough votes, Derek, if you need to.
He was having
Okay,
some
there.
trouble. So he's connected, he just got
Okay.
some technology problems, I think.
Okay, the public hearing is now open for the budget adjustment. Do we have anybody online?
From the room, we don't have anybody from the public here, and online,
I did not receive any comments.
online looks like it's just people from cities or financial advisor, Laura Lewis. No others I can see that would make comment, but I guess you'd say, you know, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Okay, seeing there's no public comments, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Lundberg. Is there a second?
Second. This is Brian.
Second from Brant. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is now closed. Next item is to consider the resolution adjusting the fiscal year 24 budget. If there's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to do so.
I'll make the motion that we approve the amendments to the annual budget for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you, Brenda. We got a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Zach. This is a roll call vote, and I'll have Krista take that too.
Zach Watson,
Yes.
Nate Rockwood,
Yes.
Brenda Moore,
Yes.
Wayne Pyle,
Yes.
Bren Bybee,
Yes.
all right. Brent Hansen,
Yes.
Mayor Lumber,
Yes.
Jason Sant,
Yes.
and Derek Euler.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, and thanks, Jason, for putting that together for us. Next, we have the board schedule for 2024. Do we just need a motion on that, Roger, to approve the dates as presented?
Yeah, it's in the packet. I can pull it up if you like, but yeah, we just need a motion to approve it.
Okay, I can run through them quick. So we got February 12th, April 8th, June 10th, August 12th, October 7th, and December 9th. It looks like October 7th is an exception to our normal. Is it? What are we
That's to
doing on
avoid
October?
something like that,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, every other one is the second Monday of the month, except for that October one.
Okay, I don't have any problems with any of the dates. Is there any discussion from any of the board on those dates? If not, we'd entertain a motion to approve the 24 meeting schedule.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 board meeting schedule as presented. This is Brent.
Thanks, Brands, our second.
I'll second. Carolyn Lundberg.
We got a second from Mayor Lundberg. All in favor of the schedule, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion passes for the schedule. Next up, looks like we'll turn the time over to our general counsel for our open and public meetings training act training.
Well, up to one, two. Just go to share.
Is it in the packet or what do you?
It's just in your inbox because it's a link. If I can share it, I'll just put through
Yeah,
it
you
on my
can
share.
share.
Okay. Okay, good. Let me get this up on my view. Okay, so we wanted to make this as efficient as possible for the yearly training. And since we know most of you receive this training at your own individual municipalities anyway, we're going to take it straight off of the state auditor, which means if we go through this, you'll each have now qualified this year for your training, which the state requires now. So if you have any questions, if you want to blurt them out, I can stop it. We can talk about it then, or you can save it till the end and we can discuss it. Otherwise, do your best to stay awake. Excuse me. Okay, well, let's go back a little bit. And there we go. Hang on. How do I get volume on this? Turn mine off, on. Let's see if it helps mine.
All right, the audio doesn't seem to be coming through.
Executive sessions. Regular meetings, public
hear
hearings,
it now?
electronic meetings, and emergency meetings are all open and public meetings.
Yes, mate.
Open and public meetings don't include chance or social meetings. A public hearing is a type of open and public meeting where citizens have a reasonable opportunity to speak. Public hearings happen when a government adopts a budget, imposes or increases taxes or fees, or transfers money from an enterprise fund. These meetings have extra notice and posting requirements and won't be addressed in this video. An electronic meeting is a type of open and public meeting that's convened electronically, such as via phone or the internet. Remember, the governing body must adopt a resolution, rule, or ordinance allowing and governing electronic meetings. Putnam adds additional requirements too. An emergency meeting may be held to discuss an urgent matter due to unforeseen circumstances. In order to hold the meeting, the best notice that's feasible is provided of the time, location, and topics to be considered. An attempt is made to contact all governing body members, and a governing body majority approves the meeting. An open and public meeting may be closed to discuss any of the following: a person's character, competence, or health, collective bargaining, litigation, certain real property transactions, including any form of a water right or water shares with specific restrictions, security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, investigations of criminal misconduct, and private or protected information for the Utah Procurement Code, including trade secrets. A closed meeting may be held only if a quorum is present and the meeting was properly noticed. 2/3 of the governing body present at the meeting need to vote yes to close a meeting. Quick math lesson. 2 divided by 3 equals 66.7%. Let's say your governing body has 5 members present at the meeting. If 3 out of 5 members vote yes, that equals 60%, which is not equal or greater than 66.7%, which means you're 1 member short and would need 4 out of 5 members to vote yes. During a closed meeting, a governing body can't interview someone applying to fill an elected position, discuss filling a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, discuss the character, competence, or health of a person whose name was submitted for consideration to fill a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, approve any ordinance, resolution, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment, or take a vote, unless it's a vote on a motion to end the closed portion of the meeting and return to an open meeting. When a governing body closes a meeting, the following must be publicly announced and entered into the minutes of the open meeting at which the closed meeting was approved. The reason or reasons for holding the closed meeting, the location where the closed meeting will be held, and the vote of each member of the governing body either for or against the motion to close the meeting. If a closed meeting is discussing a person's character, competence, or health, or security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, or several other exceptions, mostly related to state bodies or project entities, no recording or minutes are required. However, the presiding member needs to sign a sworn written statement stating such. If the closed meeting is held for any other reason, a recording must be made, which includes date, time, and place of the meeting, names of members present and absent, and names of all others, except where disclosure would infringe on the confidentiality necessary to fulfill the original purpose of closing the meeting. Regular open and public meetings require 24 hours notice. The public notice includes the meeting, agenda, date, time, and place. Public meeting agendas need to include reasonably specified topics to be considered, with each topic listed under a separate agenda item on the meeting agenda. The governing body may not consider a topic in an open meeting that wasn't on the agenda. If a new topic not on the agenda is raised by the public during an open meeting, the governing body may discuss the topic. However, final action may not be taken on the new topic during that meeting. Additionally, entities holding regular meetings scheduled in advance over the course of the year need to provide annual notice of the entire year's meeting schedule. The notice must include date, time, and place for each meeting.
Notice is posted on the public body's website in a public location such as the location where the meeting will be held, and on Utah's public notice website in accordance with Utah Code 63G-30-102.
Typically, posting on the public notice website is done by the records officer, recorder, or clerk. However, it's the governing body's responsibility to ensure notice is provided. State Archives has prepared a training manual and quick guide for owners and posters, as well as training videos that can be accessed at their website, archives.utah.gov. Written minutes and a recording are kept of all open meetings, with few exceptions. Written minutes include the date, time, and place of the meeting, the names of members present and absent, the substance of all matters, names of citizens providing comments, the substance of the comments provided, any information a body member requests be entered into the minutes or recording, and a record by individual member of each vote taken. A body with elected members must record each vote in list format by category for each action taken by a member, including yes votes, no votes, and absent members next to each member's name. A recording must be a complete and unedited record of all open portions of the meeting from beginning to end, and be labeled with the meeting date, time, and place. All or any part of an open meeting may be independently recorded by any person in attendance if the recording does not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Pending minutes means written minutes of an open meeting in draft form subject to change before being approved by the public body that held the open meeting. Pending minutes must contain a clear indication, such as a draft or pending watermark, that the governing body hasn't yet approved the minutes and that the minutes are subject to change until the public body approves them. Approved minutes means written minutes of an open meeting approved by the public body that held the open meeting. Entities must establish and implement procedures for the public body's approval of written minutes. Public meeting pending minutes, approved minutes, and recordings of public records under grant. Any individual who publicly presents information relating to an item in the public body's on the agenda must provide a copy of the information for inclusion in the public record. Make pending minutes available to the public within 30 days. Within 3 business days after approving written minutes of an open meeting, make approved minutes and any public materials available at the Utah Public Notice website, the entity's primary office, and the entity's website. Within 3 business days after holding an open meeting, make an audio recording of the open meeting available to the public for listening.
Okay, that takes care of that portion of it. So if anybody has any questions, typically municipalities have a number of these issues that come up constantly. Utopia and UIA generally don't have those types of issues that come up, mostly because we don't do a lot of land use planning, which is where so many of the issues come up from public hearings and just the agendas. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Well, that's kind of what I expected also. So having said that, I'll work with Krista to get out the certificates for your attendance at this 12-month cycle. And we'll have those available to you so you can print out for yourself and have for your own records. And I think this is the first year that they've had it. So everybody comes off of this very same video. So again, if anybody has any questions, let us know. And otherwise, thanks for at least staying awake on the screenshots I saw.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Next, we'll turn the time over to Jason for a financial update.
Thank you, Derek. This will be a little quicker as I've covered part of this in the budget revision that we talked about, but I did want to show a couple things really quick here. I'm not going to talk again about revenue because we've already kind of hit that we're having a good revenue year, and Roger will talk a little bit about customer counts and what's happening there. Couple of things I did want to bring up on the expense side. One, marketing expense is running ahead of where we projected it to be for year end. Really kind of what I'm thinking is if we keep having sales like we've been having the rest of the year, we will come in over on marketing expense. But if we keep having sales like we've been having the rest of the year, we'll have a lot more money than we need to pay for any overages we have in marketing. So I'm kind of thinking we can cover that in the year-end revision if we do have that to cover. So that's kind of what I was thinking with marketing. Something else I did want to bring up is this bottom section down here, capital financing, revenue, and expense. This is something I've actually wanted to see for a long time. And that is a cash-based budget for our capital expenditures and what's gone on there. And if you'll notice for 10/31/22, I don't have any information in here because we weren't tracking it this year. Last year this way. This year I've set it up so we can actually see all the cash spent on all the projects that we have going on and see how they are compared to budget and what's left in the budget. One number that's slightly different than what's in budget was West Haven. The budget number is higher than what I've shown here, but this is all the money that was left in the bonds. I think that's a more useful number than budget, so that's what I put in there because that's really kind of where we planned. And for me in April and May to predict exactly where I'm going to be at year end on bond funding it becomes very difficult at times. So I was a little conservative and said we'd have more bond funding. We have a little less. That being said, we think the project is tracking very close to where we expect to be on budget with that. So that's good with it. Any questions about the financials and through October?
I'm curious about the results of the bond sale. the par that we sent out there, what the tick was, that kind of thing?
Okay, give me just 1 second. You give me 30 seconds, I'll probably have that up.
While we're waiting for Jason to pull that up, Roger, maybe we need to spend a little money on a radio ad on KSL to tell the real truth about what's going on at Utopia.
Hey, you're jumping ahead here. That's part of my network update.
I knew that was gonna come up.
I didn't even know, so sorry.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, well, I can jump into it. So, yeah, I'm assuming, you know, all of you have probably seen or heard some of the ads that are out there. Obviously, we have a campaign running against us. It's being done by the Domestic Policy Caucus, and it was like, you know, who in the world is that? You know, some firm based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. It appears to be one of these kind of dark money organizations where people make contributions and they specifically don't disclose who that money comes from. And then they can run these political campaigns. They've been opposing various projects out there, and suddenly we're on their target list. It's a little bit of an odd time because we're like, what are they opposing, right? There's not some sort of big expansion. There's not some sort of big legislative issue to convince people to vote against. We're just having enormous success. We're having the best year we've ever had in our history for subscriber growth and even reputation. And so really it's seems to be a campaign against us because we're successful. So that's a good reason to have a campaign against us, I guess. Incumbent providers and, you know, big telcos, as we refer to them, don't like losing subscribers. Our position has always been, we don't build these networks to pick or choose or compete with anyone. We build these networks to enable competition. So any company that wants to participate, even big telco, can certainly participate and be a service provider like any other on our network. However, it is competition, which is what threatens them. So they're you know, afraid of this idea of utopia, of municipal fiber generally, and open access, and the success that we've had expanding. We've had other cities do it, sometimes in partnership with us and sometimes independently. And we used to be used as an example of what not to do. I hate to say that, but there was a period of time when things were rough. And now we are used as an example of a success. And we see it in conferences and discussions across the country. Utopia is increasingly becoming a topic of discussion and a model worthy of duplication. And that seems to be the source of all of this, is they don't like that message out there. So they're trying to, at least somewhat in the public eye, create a perception of failure or problems or risk or government overreach. Again, the ads are not very well done, and you're just like, you know, this isn't government coming in. And one of them I saw was like, you know, do you really want government specifying the speed of service? And I'm like, well, if your local city thinks you should have 10 gig and the local incumbent wants you to have, you know, a DSL connection, I'm like, yeah, I do want my local government, you know, to tell everyone that they need more speed. But you know, certainly there's a slant there. Greg Hughes has become involved as this group has hired him to be their spokesman for this Utah campaign. So obviously he's a name that's pretty well known in Utah, having served in the legislature. I don't believe he has any current elected office or anything. So I think he's just it's a gig for him. And I don't really anticipate any problems as a result. You know, we're obviously keeping an eye on it to see what kind of impact it may have, if there's any sort of rebuttals or things. We did have an interview from Ben Winslow from Fox come in, and they did a story on us, you know, on their news that they showed that evening. I think it was Wednesday night, maybe Thursday, and then the following morning it was on the news as well. So I'm not really excited about being in the news, but that was a moment I had provide some counterpoints to their arguments. I think we're going to see a lot of written stories about it, probably some statements from different industry groups, mostly in our favor, I think. Again, it's just incumbent providers likely funding this as a way to prevent competition, and generally that's not very favorable. And so we're trying to find a spin to make us look bad, but we have good support from those that we serve. We are doing well with our residents. We keep adding more and more customers. We keep checking our customer reviews and surveys, and our reputation continues to increase for reliability and customer service and satisfaction with it. So where it matters, I think we're hitting on all cylinders. And again, not that I don't want to just completely dismiss these campaigns. We do care and want to know the impact and take any corrective action or counter campaign if necessary, something like that. But at this point, things are going really well. So anyways, that's on the topic of the ads. I don't know if you've seen them, but there've been both radio and TV ads, and multiple, at least on the TV. We've seen different versions. Any questions or concerns about those that anyone wants to bring up? And if not, maybe we kick back to Jason, and then we can come back to me for the network update. Did Jason, you have the ads on that bond?
Yeah. Couple things to bring up. One, we've seen what the bond market's done the last, 6-9 months, and it's been, interest rates have risen significantly. The largest I've seen in my career, for sure. And I'm sure that's part of what's bringing up Brenda's question is how do we do? Our true interest cost was just under 6% on this bond. So we actually hit it on a very bad week when rates were rising. I do know the next week was even worse. I do know that but I haven't been paying that much attention since then, just because I'm still kind of sick about what interest rates have done in general. So,
and Jason, if you want me to speak to that, I'm happy to do that. But
yeah, would you do that just really quick, Laura? Because I mean, not that I would not recommend ever predicting rates are going to go up or down and making a decision based off that. If anybody was good at that, they wouldn't be on this meeting. But Laura, go ahead.
And thank you. I'll be very brief. So interest rates and the tax exempt side hit kind of their peak around October 19th. I didn't know this was going to be a topic. I would have had exact dates for you, and stayed very high through the end of October. Since then, again, I can't give you a trajectory, but since then, the AAA MMD has come down about 80 to 85 basis points. It's been shocking how quickly it has dropped. More money has come into the bond market, and so the demand is up. And what's happening right now is generally there's some market euphoria of, okay, the Fed's done raising interest rates, and there's going to be 3 to 4, they're predicting 3 to 4 reductions by the Fed next year. Is what I would say the bulk of what you can read out there, what the economists think. However, I will note that The Economist magazine, they're not quite so sold on that. But the fact that the general market they're all trying to rush in and say, oh, well, we better buy these bonds now because rates are just going to keep going down. Had we seen that coming, we could have maybe waited. We did have a discussion about whether we should wait or not. And again, at the time, all the signs were that there would, maybe be one more increase by the end of this year, and that rates might continue to go up. So that's my brief summary of what's happened since then.
Okay. Thanks, Laura. Also, as far as using the funds, basically we put 1 year of capitalized interest in this. We have on all of our other bonds put 3 years. Part of the reason is because I just thought the cost of capitalized interest was too high, just being at 6%. The other reason is I knew this cash would be deployed and coming in more quickly than doing a whole city build out, just because this cash is primarily being used for connections and is what's driving our revenue growth that we've seen this year. So you can see capitalized interest of about $2 million. We did have to fund a debt service reserve fund of $2.8 million on top of that. So that money will be in the debt service reserve fund until the bonds are retired. Does that answer your question, Brenda?
That does. I'm headed to the market in January. I was just curious.
Sounds like better timing than October, hopefully.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for you. Other than that, I did want to bring up our revenue charts. Here's Utopia and UIA. I did want to bring up the UIA showing a little bit of up and down the last couple months. We've had some one-time things come in here. In August, one charge that's a little bit variable there is we do have some installation charges for large businesses that goes up and down. In June and July, it was fairly high. It went down about from 40,000 to 10,000 a month in August, and it stayed that way through September and October. On top of that, in October, we found out we had a customer, we had the miscommunication on when we should bill, and we started billing before they were actually connected for about $60,000. And so we had to have a downward adjustment. That's this big dip you see right here in October. But I did put November in here. There was a significant increase in November, but we also had a one-time negative charge for 40,000 that's going to come back next month, and we're going to see a good December. I'm pretty sure of it as we go through it. Also, the recurring revenue versus bond obligation for UIA, if you'll notice, there's a thin blue line at the very top there, maybe a little light, maybe I should darken that. That shows where the new monthly bond payment will be when the new bonds come on next year. As you can see, the gap continues to widen between how much we're paying for bonds and how much revenue we're bringing in. And that's what drives our ability to discuss distributions to cities to help offset what happens at Utopia for their bond payments there. And that's all I have. If there's any additional questions.
Thank you, Jason. Good questions. Is there any other questions about where we're at financially? If not, we will turn the time over to Roger for a network upgrade update.
All right. Not that everything that we do in our network is captured from these subscriber reports, but it's definitely a good metric. We've had a lot of good business growth, and that doesn't really stand out in these charts. We're just counting numbers in here, but we've continued to grow our take rates across the board. Usually if you ever see a decline, that's when I'm like, it's like a red flag for me. Like, did something happen? Is there some new competitive, offering? Is Starlink suddenly competitive? Is there a fixed wireless option or something? Because we do see things come to market, but yet we continue to see that fiber, and specifically our fiber, is doing better than every other alternative, and we continue to gain market share in every city. And I say specifically our fiber, we do see some other options. We see little pockets here and there, CenturyLink or others building fiber, but we continue to do better and take more customers every month. Again, if you were to see a decline, when I see a decline, I say like, okay, here, Murray, wait a second, there's a tiny percent change decline, month over month. But if I were to jump to Murray's chart, I gotta see alphabetical here. I gotta go down these. The actual number of subscribers would increase. We had a dip here. That was when we had a conversion of a bunch of MDUs to a single bulk connection. We didn't actually lose any customers there. But the last month here, where we would have shown a slight decrease, it actually increased. So what happens is, if you see the availability, that's gone up. So what happens is some additional parcels or new development or redevelopment happens, and additional locations are created. So sometimes that addition of potential customers increases when some new parcels reported or something like that. And so it'll outpace the number of installations. And so we see a decline in percent, but we actually are continuing to grow. So we're like, okay, shoot, it's just a temporary thing. We continue to see increases. So the trend lines with number of customers is a good way to kind of vet that if you ever see something that may look like a decline. Let me get back to the first page on here. So anyways, yeah, across the board, continue to add customers. So this month, November is a short month. We lose because of the holiday. But if we're looking at the 3 months before that, those would be the 3 best months we've had in the history of Utopia. So those 3 months, we had over 1,000 net growth for all 3 months. Across all of our systems, the UIA and our partnerships. So this is Utopia, UIA, and partner cities like Idaho Falls. Yeah, that growth was fantastic. We're over 60,000 subscribers across all of our systems and growing faster than we ever have. We'll expect that decline every year. You'll see it kind of flatten a little bit over Thanksgiving, November, December, and January. And then February a little bit because it's a short month, but it usually still starts to come back then, and then things come on strong. So these slow months, like last month, we netted just over 700 customers, would have been our best month ever. It had we go back a couple of years. So we're very happy with the demand and the growth and the subscribers coming onto the system. If you say, hey, is that just because we have growth and new city partnerships and things? Not so much. We have a lot of cities and customers are coming in everywhere, and we just keep growing that portfolio, and then that shows up on Jason's charts usually, except for the exceptions he gave you where it's like we had some one-time things, but based on the customer growth and the billings, that number is going to bump up very strongly as we don't have, we won't always have these little one-time reimbursement things that we deal with. So things are good. Our service providers have been fantastic. Yeah, I don't really have any other comments. Contrary to what I hear on the TV from those ads, it's just, they don't believe them, I guess. And we've had a lot of people reach out with support, like what's going on. At church yesterday, and people are coming up like, what's going on? Are you guys okay? Like, things are better than they ever have been. So, we're thinking about like, how do we counter that, or do we need to? And we're kind of watching that as it goes on. But yeah, from where we stand, everything is great, and don't really have any concerns. Any questions about any of that for me or the team here? But yeah, we attribute a lot of this. I mean, we work hard, we market, we keep the network up and reliable and all of that, but we attribute a lot of this to the cities themselves. We appreciate your support. A lot of people are still, coming in and asking their city, what utilities do we have here that we can hook up to? Is this an important thing? And we still hear, the city itself is one of the best places that they hear about it. Facebook and things like that increasingly as well, jump on there and say like, hey, I just came into the neighborhood or something, like what should I get? And if you ever wonder about how we're doing in the marketplace, it's always nice to go and see some of those group threads where people overwhelmingly, we'll tell them obviously, hey, Utopia is here and available, but nothing is better than hearing from their neighbors and their own community that Utopia is the best broadband option for them. And we see that increasingly, and these online channels have been very helpful and successful to that end. And we appreciate all your support, and we'll continue to work hard and not take that for granted, and up those take rates and up those revenues.
Thank you, Roger. Just a couple of comments from me. Obviously very positive things going on right now. It's exciting. And did Wayne drop off? I don't see him on there anymore. I was going to embarrass him for a minute, but anyway, well, really appreciate the staff, appreciate the board. Yeah, I mean, the growth, and the negativity, I think that we're seeing a little bit in the media right now, it's kind of an interesting question. Should we, combat that, or just let our numbers speak for themselves? I guess you'd make that decision, Roger, but maybe my opinion is the growth and development and the revenue speaks for itself with Utopia, so. Unless there are any other comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have a quick question. Sorry. This is Jarrett with Santa Clara City. I just had a potential service provider reach out and was wondering how they can sign on. What's the process for that?
So we did an RFP a couple months ago, and then there was.
It just ended on Friday too.
Yeah, so there was an evaluation. Well, what was the time? Like,
So
was that the closing date?
That was the response day was on Friday, and we awarded after the new year, so it's about a month from now.
Yeah, so we have windows where we do an RFP, and then I'll invite providers to bid on that. This is a little bit of a tricky one because I think I saw emails from you about this one down in your area. So we'll need to look at that because it may be a situation where we say, hey, this is unique because they have a targeted presence, in an area that's a little more remote down in the St. George area. Sorry, I should call it Santa Clara area. Well, there's some other city down there named St. George, but that has nothing to do with this. But yeah, normally we kind of try to keep the bar high. We have already so many service providers on the network. One of the complaints we get is there's too many choices. Not really that big of a problem. We'd like to have a lot of choice. But yeah, the normal process would be an RFP. Providers submit their financials and strategies and background and all of that stuff, and then we'll, the intent was to allow one provider in this round, because to some extent we feel like we're full. We have a lot of providers. We don't do an RFP every year to let providers on, if they kind of meet that requirement and compete a little bit to get into the system. But we probably want to have some additional conversation about this one and see if there's a reason that we might go out of our normal process. We have in the past changed the timing of things if there was some circumstance, some special project where you're like, hey, this would trigger something outside of what our normal process would be, which I think is appropriate, right? If nothing's changing, then it's just like, this is our process. But if we're launching a new region or there's some special circumstance, then it may trigger an additional RFP or do a regional thing. We've had RFPs separate for Yellowstone Fiber, for example. Oops, I triggered the thumbs up thing there in Zoom. But yeah, anyways, we'll follow up with you on that. But our normal process is an RFP for inviting providers on. On the business side, it's a little different because it's more of a pure wholesale, and many providers don't even advertise or let customers know that they're a provider on the network. They just purchase wholesale services from us, and that has a different onboarding, and it's actually easier to get on as a business provider. So, but they're after residential, aren't they, Jared?
Yeah, I believe so.
So we'll need to have some follow up with them and see what the plans are, see if it works.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? So we want to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Brian.
Second.
Second from Mayor Lundberg. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good holiday.
Thank you.
One down, one to go.